I'm Christina Neudorf. I'm Assistant Research Professor of Geology at the Desert Research Institute, and I manage the DRI Luminescence Research Laboratory. Luminescence dating is one geochronological technique that can be used to date samples that are only a few hundred years of age, all the way up to about 400,000 years of age or more. It's difficult to date archaeological sites in the Great Basin, but what we do know is that where water flowed, people followed. So if we can't date the artifacts directly, what we could do is date the evidence for water directly. And in the Great Basin, that includes ancient pluvial lake shorelines or ancient deposits that are associated with wetlands that once existed during the Pleistocene and Holocene periods. So in previous studies in Coal Valley, in Lincoln County, Nevada, attempts were made to date ancient pluvial lake shorelines using a technique called luminescence dating. Luminescence dating is a technique that determines the last time mineral grains in sand, quartz or feldspar, have been exposed to sunlight. So in other words, it gives us a burial age. And if you have a burial age of sand in a landform, that helps you determine how old the landform is. Luminescence techniques that were applied to pluvial lake shoreline features, we found they didn't really work very well. So the sand, as it turns out, is probably derived either through wind or plants or burrowing animals, and was introduced to the beach ridge gravels long after the beach ridge formed. But the sand we were dating was giving us age underestimates, ages that were much too young. So in this study, we decided to focus less on sand and more on pebbles. They're heavier, they're less likely to be remobilized in the environment. So we had high hopes that luminescence dating techniques on pebbles might give us more accurate age of shoreline features that people used to settle next to in the past. When quartz or feldspar sand grains are buried in their environment, they are absorbing ambient radiation. And what this radiation does is it remobilizes electrons within the crystal of the mineral. These electrons, they kind of get knocked out of position, they move around within the crystal lattice, and then they become retrapped. The longer these mineral grains have been buried, the more electrons will accumulate within these traps in the crystal lattice. So if we go in the field and we take a sample of sand and we keep it in the dark, we sample it, we hammer a tube into a face, a sedimentary section, and we sample it in such a way that we do not expose those sand grains to light. And we bring that sand into the lab and stimulate it with a very dim light source. The mineral grain is actually going to luminesce. It's going to release photons of light. And that is because all of those trapped electrons are released from their traps. And so the essence behind luminescence dating is the amount of light that is released is proportional to the time that the sand grain has been buried in the environment. So in this project, we've started a series of experiments to test the feasibility of dating pebbles directly in the beach ridges. And we're really excited about the preliminary findings, so please stay tuned.